My name is Sahan Karunaratne, and I am wrapping up my first year as a mechanical engineering student here at San Jose State University. Over the year, I've talked to a lot of engineering students, professors, upperclassmen, incoming freshmen, and parents of incoming freshmen. And what I've come to realize is the general consensus about the engineering major is very one-dimensional. The agreed upon path is very strict, basically deeming that you do well in high school to get into a good college. Once you're in a good college, you get the internship, you build the resume, and eventually join the workforce. And while that's definitely true, and there's nothing wrong with that, the discussion ends there. As someone who's talked to a wide range of engineers, I know there's a lot more discussion to be had, and there's a lot more unique perspectives to consider that deviates from this universally agreed upon sentiment. Of course, there's no shortage of middle-of-the-road engineers like myself, so I interviewed two of my friends who are approaching engineering from very unique angles, and I feel like they're not talked about enough. I asked them some guiding questions, but they mostly just rambled on about their experience, which is exactly what I wanted. The first person I interviewed was Rohan, who studies electrical engineering at Stanford. I think most people would agree that that's on the higher, more competitive end of engineering. Here he reflects on how the college culture at Stanford differs from that of high school.
Yeah, I think the course load is a little different here because I think you tend to focus in high school a lot on like trying, at least for me, like trying to get into a school, or like it's very much geared towards like one sort of goal, and the goal is very clearly defined. Like, you know exactly like, hey, I want to go to this school, or I want to go to this collection of schools. So the path is a little bit more well known, and you kind of know roughly how to navigate it. So like you have to do certain classes, you have to like try to be involved in your community and do certain extracurriculars that you think could help you improve in that kind of subject area you want to pursue. And then ultimately you kind of have to put that all together, tie everything together, and send off like an application, which is like a very clearly well-defined sort of process. But I think, especially at Stanford, like you're way more open-ended to kind of like do what you want. There's not so much like a template for success, or like a template for like what to do. So like some of my friends want to go to med school, and some of my friends want to go to law school, and some of my friends want to do like PhDs. But then there's other friends who want to like go work in government, or like who want to go and work full-time at some big tech, or even like go to a startup, right?
The second person I interviewed was Manav, who attends Foothill Community College, and he's on track to transfer to a UC by the end of his sophomore year. I think people tend to look down on community college, even though it's a very legitimate route, especially for someone that maybe doesn't have the funds, or maybe you don't know what you want to do yet, or maybe you just got a late start. I think community is a great option for that. Here, Manav gives us 2 cents on the workload of community college versus high school.
In high school, I didn't really do that well. I didn't take like that many hard classes. I didn't do that many extracurriculars, and my GPA wasn't that high. So I mean, it's definitely a lot more difficult than what I was doing in high school. But I think for most people, you wouldn't say it's that difficult. I think it's still hard, obviously, but if you just put enough effort, you communicate with your teachers, you do your work, you'll probably do pretty well.
What do you think you miss out by choosing community over the typical four-year college?
Definitely social life. Social life is pretty hard to like maintain in community college. I don't really like, making friends. You have to really go out of your way to meet new people and really, join clubs. You have to do a lot of things to even try to engage with other people. And if you do, maybe you'll have like half the experience that some other college people have. I know my brother, he used to rave to me about his social life at Davis, A lot of people on his dorm, he knew everyone in the floor. They'd have parties, they do whatever. It's kind of hard to have the same lifestyle while going to community college.
I don't know. I think high school is a little bit more harder probably, just because I think like you have less flexibility in what you can do. But I think over here, like there's a lot more, like what I'm exploring here are things that I like, or at least like somewhat like. So I think it's a lot easier to be like engaged with the material and like not find what you're doing work, really. Yeah. Adrian lives in here. Bro, he was my lab partner like last year. He's got a bit. Adrian! What's up? How are you? Good to see you. We'll put his stats sheet in.
Rather than just talk about the academic aspect, I wanted my two interviewees to talk about the personal aspect of the routes that they chose. So here Manav talks a little bit about his personal growth.
I'm definitely happy with my decision, but I think that's more so due to my own personal growth in community college, not as much like due to me going to the college almost. I think as a person, I just became a lot more productive. I've learned a lot more new skills that I probably wouldn't have learned in college had I like gone for social life or other reasons. I think community college kind of gave me my own space to grow, gave me my own like isolation, and I feel like I'm just a new person. It just lets you take things a lot slower, but simultaneously you have a lot of opportunities at community, at least in terms of like transferring. You which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to transfer to an amazing 4-year if I can. Something like Berkeley or, LA would be optimal.
Lastly, I asked Rohan for advice that he would give to incoming engineering students.
The best type of engineer I think you can be right now is a bioengineer.
Really?
100%.
Very controversial take.
I think that is the best form of engineer. I think a lot of these electrical, mechanical, CS degrees, like the next frontier in engineering, in my opinion, in addition, there's a lot of other ones, but I think like one of the main ones that's going to be the most lucrative is going to be being able to, is like genomic therapies, any sort of like mRNA vaccinations or that sort of field. I think it's going to be any sort of like small molecules, so like monoclonal antibodies, I think is like another huge field. And I think in order to be able to understand how to construct those type of proteins and stuff, bioengineering, at least for here, like the BioE program here is very, very good. And I think my advice for people who are interested in this field is like, don't go get a bio or a chem degree, like go get a BioE degree.
If you're a freshman that's looking into applying to engineering, hopefully this video was able to shed some light on a perspective that you hadn't heard before. Good luck on your applications, and thank you for watching.